quick things about our Delmarva Cook series. Today's Smith Island cake, of course, but on Wednesday, March 26th, we've got the herring run. We'll have Newell Quinton, who grew up in San Domingo, coming in to talk about how local people maintain their way of life when he was growing up, and part of that way was the herring run was an important part of that. So I think that'll be a really interesting program. And then coming up in early May, on May 5th and 7th, we'll have John Crockett and Henry Guy from Skipjack Seafood coming in to do some seafood dishes for us all. So I think that'll be great too. So you all got a schedule when you were on your way in, so hang on to it and stay tuned, because I'm working on a program in July or in June, I'm sorry, for vegetables, and there may be some other surprises coming too. So stay tuned with us, and you can get our schedules on our website at www.wardmuseum.com. If you have suggestions for cooking programs or other kinds of traditional programs, we keep these wonderful brochures called Nominate a Lower Eastern Shore Tradition. So if there's a tradition that's important to you that you think we might be interested in doing a program with, I'll have these at the front desk where you signed in, and you can fill out something you'd like to nominate, and we can see about working it into a program in the next couple of years. So take a look at those on your way out. So today we're talking Smith Island cake. Smith Island cake is one of many dishes that are distinctive to Maryland. And as you all know, a bill was proposed to the state legislature earlier this year. And the idea was to make it the official Maryland state dessert. As a matter of fact, you might have seen this morning or last night on the news that it did pass the Senate unanimously. There's one more vote to push it on through to the House, but it's working its way successfully through that governmental maze, so it looks like we're doing good. Smith Island native Dana Evans is here with us today. I'd like to introduce Dana. Dana owns Classic Cakes here in Salisbury, and she actually donated dozens of cakes, 400 and something slices, so that we could take it to the legislature in Maryland so that every congressperson could have a piece. And I'm sure that the official tasting had a lot to do with the bill's success. So thank you, Dana, for that. Her store is located at 1305 South Division Street, and you can also see her website. It's brand new, and it's at www.classicsmithislandcakes.com, and there is a sheet in each of your packets that has some information on her store and her website as well. So Dana, can you tell us where you learned to make Smith Island cake?
Oh gosh, I was probably very small, standing on a little step stool next to my mom, and she did a lot of them, so I just learned from her. But she always would say, "Don't mash the cake." I would slap the layer on there and pat it or mash it. And it's funny because now my daughter's working with me, and I'm like, no, she's doing the same thing, but she does great. But yeah, I grew up doing it on Smith Island. I used to, if somebody was sick, instead of giving them a card, I'd rather take them a cake. So I really, I enjoy doing what I do.
Well, it's definitely a long-standing Smith Island tradition. In the 1990s, folklorists from, namely Elaine F. from Maryland Traditions, which there's some information about that in your packet, and we'll talk about that a little more. They went from house to house asking about the origins of Smith Island cake, trying to find out when this started and where it came from. And they found that the island wives baked at least one cake every week, and they sent it in their husbands' lunch boxes to work, and so it was such a common thing that it's gone on as long as anybody can remember. So they were not successful in finding out exactly where it started, so it's still a little mysterious. It was sort of considered an everyday cake. People had it on hand all the time pretty much, but at holidays and birthdays and special events, you'd have a wide variety of options spread out before you, and some have crushed candy between the layers and fruits and things like that. So, Dana, what kinds of flavors do you make?
Oh gosh, well, we have the yellow cake with the chocolate. That's probably what everybody calls and says they want the traditional. banana, walnut, orange, coconut, pineapple, Reese cup, Butterfinger. I'm going to get lost here. Red velvet, cookies and cream.
So there are a lot of different
There's
possibilities.
I'll end up forgetting one. Pumpkin, strawberry.
So I understand the cake itself consists of 8 or 10 or more little delicate layers.
Very thin layers, yeah.
One of the folklore, or one of the people who were interviewed by our Elaine F. Several years ago, said that his wife's cake had only 4 layers. And she said, well, why does she make only 4 layers? And he said, well, I don't like frosting, so I only want 4 layers of frosting instead of 10 layers of frosting. So how many layers does your cake have?
We try to have 9. If it gets too tall, the lid won't close, so we might cut it back to 8. And we're shipping now, so we got to make sure it fits in the box, and usually 8 or 9.
I've encountered other traditional stack cakes, as they call them, in other parts of the country, but none of them have the same kinds of ingredients and techniques as those found in Smith Island cake. Dana, have you heard any theories about the origins of Smith Island cake?
Oh gosh, it's a lot of different
A lot of different ones?
Yeah, it's a lot of different.
As far as I've been able to tell, nobody seems to remember a time when there weren't Smith Island cake. And in fact, the recipe that we've included in your packet is from Mrs. Frances Kitching, who was a 6th generation Smith Island chef, whom Dana is also familiar with. And she considered it such an ordinary, everyday thing that she didn't even put the recipe in her first Smith Island cookbook, because she thought, well, everybody knows how to make that. So that was in 1981, and it wasn't added to her cookbook until 1999. So it was just such a part of everyday life. And but we've included the recipe in your packet for Mrs. Kitching's Smith Island cake. We didn't want to give away all of Dana's secrets because we want her to stay in business. But she will give us a lot of tips and techniques for mixing up the cake and the frosting that can be applied to any recipe, including one that you might already use.
Right.
So why don't you tell us what supplies we'll need and how we might get started?
Well, a lot of people use these different pans. This is a 9-inch pan. When I first began, I did have an 8-inch pan, and I was doing 8-inch. It got to the point when we got so many orders, the different sizes was too much. It was just too much going on, so I went to the one size. Unless you order a wedding cake, then we'll do like 8, 9, and 10-inch. But I have probably hundreds of these at the shop, and they're going all day. You can hear clicking in the pans. And do you want me to demonstrate now? Mm-hmm. And what we do, we have our cake batter, and normally we put a small amount. I don't use a spoon there. They have a special thing they use, but they wouldn't let me have it today. So this is how I used to do it. When I was at home growing up, we just spooned everything. And you just spoon it around and get it evenly so that it can bake and not, come out really crooked, because it can happen. But you try to get it evenly. So it's baked very thin. I was asked when I opened, did I use electric knife to cut the layers? They thought No, I haven't done that. And then the next thing I thought was funny was dental floss. Do I use dental floss? I've heard of that. So no, I've never done that, but this is what we did. And now I have a wonderful crew, and it doesn't take me very long to get a cake out, but when I was at home, it would take a long time. So I wouldn't like to have to do all those at home again. I'd rather be there and have everybody helping.
About how many cakes do you put out in a week?
When we first started, we tried to keep count.
Now
it could be 25 a day, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've done a hard day's work. Now it's well, in the hundreds.
Uh-huh,
Not
wow.
every day, but holidays, I don't know, in the hundreds.
So it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's very hard to keep track.
What determines, other than the size of the box you've got, what can determine how many layers people will have? Just the amount of cake batter they
well,
have, or
like
the number of pans they own?
What I'm doing today is going to be a banana walnut. And you can look at the chocolate, and it looks like that, and then you can have a banana walnut, and of course, with all the bananas sliced between the layers, it's going to be taller. So it's according if you have the fruit in it, or, you know, like with the strawberries, it's also tall.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And I know I've read that Islanders traditionally made all their cakes from scratch, and I know some home bakers use box cake mixers for the cake layers, and the frosting can be either cooked or cold.
Yeah, it can be
Either way.
or. Yep.
And some people have said that it's not a layered cake with frosting in between. It's a stack of frosting with cake in between.
It can be.
So just carry on.
Okay. All right. Actually, I forgot my knife, but you were good to get me one. So. And I usually have something that I get the layers out with. I forgot that. So we're hoping they'll come out.
Well, most of us at home won't have special things to get the layers out with either.
This is a cream cheese icing. Yep.
Do you grease and flour the,
I grease the pan.
just grease?
Yes.
How thick is the layer of frosting? Like that 32nd of an inch, or what? Do you have any idea?
Not really. I'll show you when I get out the next one, but I've never really paid any attention to it, I guess.
So you have to cut the banana slices
to
really
slice the
thin.
banana, yes.
Yeah. So if you mess it up
But
getting out of the
it's-
pan, you
it's
just
very
patch it up
thin.
with more icing.
Exactly. Then just stack it on top.
And you're not supposed to add it down.
And I'm not supposed, my mom said, don't do that. My mom used to do half of the cake, one flavor, because I love chocolate, and my brother liked the white frosting. And when I got married, I did that. When I opened up a shop, I didn't do that anymore. I have been asked, but it would take too long to do it, and we don't have that much time out there with all the orders.
So they just have to order one of each, cut them in half,
Yeah.
and switch them.
Exactly.
I know you sell slices, but you don't sell half a cake.
I do. What we have in the shop, we have cakes up there for slices. If there's a half, you can certainly buy it. I tried that too when I opened, and that became hard because I was having my regular customers that come in for slices, and there was none because people was buying half of cakes. So I thought, oh, I better not do that then. I don't want to make everybody mad with me. So we decided we have it up front, we'll sell half.
Those bananas don't slide off of your layers?
Well, you're going to end up icing in the outside, so they're going to stay. I'm not sure who asked me that. Okay, they're going to stay in there with icing.
It's amazing how those layers, when you were moving it around, it's amazing to me how they stay together and don't break. I think mine would break. Is there any particular secret to that?
Other than baking it, I guess, and I don't even know how long we really bake it, because when we first got our oven in the shop, we baked it at, say, 10 minutes. And the older the oven got, of course, the longer we had to bake. So now we're up a little bit more. But it's, I guess, the baking. It really, if the layer's cooked enough, it shouldn't break. But you don't want to cook it too much.
Do you have a trick to tell when it's just right, or like people say put your finger on it and see
And
if it
if it
pops up?
doesn't,
That's the best trick?
But I think now doing so many, we just
Hope
can
that
look
it's
and it's,
But I guess
so.
if you were cooking at home, it'd just be kind of trial and error.
Yeah, because everybody's oven's different.
When you do the strawberry one, do you use the cream cheese?
I don't. It's a different icing, and it also has to be refrigerated.
So people could just try all different combinations of what, if something sounds like they like it, say, oh, that might be good with strawberries on it, or.
Right.
Have you ever alternated like different kinds of icing in between the layers?
No.
Oh, okay. Is that a no-no
I've
for
been-
Smith Island cake?
I've been asked that one too.
And you said no, you don't do that.
No.
About how many bananas do you use per?
About 3. Yep.
And are they usually like really ripe or not really?
I like them to look like this. I feel that if you don't get them if they're too ripe, they're going to turn darker really quick. But as you know, when you have bananas and air hits, they're going to turn dark anyway. So, but it does keep them a little bit longer if they're not real ripe.
You just left all your layers in the pan too until you went to use them? You don't have to take them out, put them on
Well, we don't have them in the pans too long. Because I'm,
now they've been in there.
well, since I've been here, they were baked before I come, so they were almost not cooled off quite yet. But at the shop, sometimes people come in and they'll get talking to me, and I'm like, I don't know who they are, but because I'm so busy, sometimes I don't look up. And they know me though, and so we do this all day, so the cakes doesn't stay in the pans very long.
One of the reasons we had Dana come soon before the program started was so that her cakes wouldn't be sitting too long, So that's why we were setting up at the last possible minute.
How many women do you have working in your shop?
Probably 7. Holidays, I have probably 12. I cannot get too many because the shop's not that big and we'd be hitting each other, getting in the way.
And it's been a family business for
And
quite a while, hasn't it?
And my daughter is there right now while I'm here. I tried to talk her into coming and doing this. So she's running it with me.
We included in your packet an article from the paper from when her business first opened. So for you, it'll be a little bit of a blast from the past. But,
Okay.
but we did include some information about the history of her shop in your packet too.
The first day I opened, I think we did 8 cakes. And we thought, oh my gosh, 8 cakes. We may do that in a half an hour. And you might want to go around the sides because you can pull layers off if, when you're icing it, especially with cream cheese.
So it would be helpful if people were really making a lot of these at home to get one of those little turnaround stands.
And I never had one of them when I did them at
Did
home.
you? You
I
just
don't know
turned
what I
it
would
each
do
time
without
with a
it.
plate?
Exactly.
But I think you can get those at most, like
You can.
like Michael's and things like that, where they sell cake supplies. I'm sure it makes it a lot easier.
Dana, when you were doing these at your house, how long did it take you to put one of these together?
Probably an hour.
From start to finish?
Yep.
How did you bake all 10 layers? Did you have a special oven that you had at home?
No, just my regular oven, but I
Did you
couldn't.
bake them all the layers at the same time?
No, it took me 2 bakings. Now I probably bake 50-some layers at one time, so.
So you have a really big industrial type oven?
We have 2 of them, and I have a pastry chef that does the wedding cakes, and like I said, a lot of times they'll get the Smith Island cakes, and we'll ice them inside, whatever the bride prefers. Then I'll send them over to her, and she'll just decorate them like a regular cake. So you really don't know what you're getting until you cut into it. So a lot of people wouldn't know that it was a Smith Island cake.
But that's what's neat about them is when you have guests and you cut, it looks like a regular cake and you cut it and they're surprised to see all those layers. The first time I tried Smith Island cake, I didn't realize how rich it was. So we were actually cutting up Dana's cakes to take to the congressman, and I was cutting big chunks the way you would cut a regular cake. And so when we were all finished, I got a chance to eat a piece, and I thought there are going to be some congressmen who are really full.
It's getting pretty tall, so I don't think I'll put that last layer on.
Dana, what did you think when they were saying they wanted to make this a state dessert?
I think I'm still in shock. I had people calling me and people coming in the shop that was from out of town, and they were so excited. I think a lot of people away is as excited for us as we are. It was, it's amazing, I think, that this is happening. Hopefully it'll happen. It looks like it's going to.
Does that mean that Smith Island people have to be protected and we can't eat it any longer?
We hope not.
An endangered species.
You know what kind of cakes were the competition?
What kind was what, ma'am?
With the competition, who else?
For the desserts.
And to apply for the,
In the area?
well,
Or-
just for the state of Maryland, were there other?
What the other state
I
dessert
have no
runners-up
idea.
were.
I didn't see anything in the paper about that.
Have no idea.
My understanding was there was no state dessert.
I've
And
not-
then it became, well, if we were to have one,
What would it
could
be?
the natural cake to have in there. If you think about the key lime pie and the Boston cream pie, what they've done
Right.
for sort of their state dessert.
I've come across a number of recipes for Lady Baltimore cake all of my life,
Mhm.
but I've never had one. I've never known anybody who's had one.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
Okay,
No. And what I'm doing now, I'm just putting the walnuts on the outside. This is the banana, and what I'm getting ready to do is going to change it into a banana walnut. That's all we do at the shop.
So you don't put any walnuts on the inside of it?
No, because, if somebody was allergic, I
They
feel
wouldn't know
it'd be
that it
better.
was in there. Gotcha.
Right. I might make a little mess.
Home baking with these many layers, do you leave the layers in the pan, since you can only fit so many into the oven at once? Do you leave them in the pan, or do you put them out on the cooling rack while the rest are baking?
No, I leave them in the pan until I use them. But I would do a cake at a time. I wouldn't bake, say, if I had 5 cakes to do, I wouldn't bake all those layers and then put them together. I put them together.
So it's okay for them to sit in the pan that long
Yeah.
until the rest of the layers get baked?
Yeah, well, I was only, baking 9 layers, so it didn't take too long to get those baked.
Yeah, then
I have seen some people that sets them out. I don't. I guess it's just up to the person.
What kind of knife did you use to ice it? I didn't look at the regular knife.
My gosh, let me tell you about this knife. It has a story behind it. This is when my husband and I got married, his grandparents give us this silverware. And it's got a fat handle on it, and I just love it. Well, the girls at the shop thought I was crazy because I wanted this knife. I didn't want anybody to lose it. So I brought more from home out, and now when I look, they've all got these knives. So they all like them. My pastry chef does not use this knife. She uses the round, regular pastry knife you see that they use. I cannot do it with those. This is what I always ice in a cake with.
And is that just the regular butter knife from the silverware set?
Yes.
It was just the right shape?
Yes, it's fat, and that's, what I've always used.
Thank you.
So when did you start showing your daughter how to bake, or she just grew up with
She
it?
never did it at home, and we moved from Smith Island 5.5 years ago. And she was in college and didn't really know what she wanted to do. And but she wanted to move out on her own, and I said, well, you know, you've got to have a job to do that. And her dad said, you should come work with your mom. Well, you know, mother and daughter, that kind of sometimes can get a little bit opinionated of each other. But she did, and she ended up stopping college for right now. And she learned with me at the shop. Not on Smith Island, she learned over here. And actually, she can put them together probably quicker than I can. She does very well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I don't want her to go to college, but I hope she stays with me for a long time.
To get your layers so even, do you use like a ladle that has a certain amount of ounces, or do you weigh it for each layer?
No, it's all about the spooning. When I spoon the layers, the cake and these, it's all about getting it even. And you won't see the sides of the pan with cake up against it, the batter. It's pretty even. Now, I will say they can turn out at my shop, and what you do, if you got a fat layer on one side and a skinny one, then you try to find another layer and make sure, because they can get lap-sided.
Janet, I do have a question.
Yes.
So what you're suggesting that if we buy 9 pans, so we don't have to take them out?
I would,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Because I know there's some people who has 2 pans.
Yeah.
So
You
you
do
really,
4 or 5 bakings.
yeah. But that is pretty much it for that cake.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Are there other questions?
Are they nuts on the outside of this, or is that crumbs?
This is nuts. I just put them on. They are crumbled walnuts.
Crumb.
Yes. Yep. And that's all we have on our banana walnut.
Dana, is there something special that you grease the pans with?
Just Crisco, solid. You can use Pam spray. My ovens, I can't. I had 2 other locations, and I sold those this past year because the lady that went in partners with me no longer is there, and my daughter and myself are there now. And I just rather devote my time here than, you know, I found if you're not there, it's not going to work out how you want it. And one thing about a cake, I want you to get it like I would want it. That's the way we operate.
You don't want to be spread too thin, as they say.
No.
How do you pack them for shipping then?
We have flat rate boxes, and just got those. And we box them. I don't know where the box is.
I'll get it.
The box that I brought this chocolate cake in, we set that into a box, and we put bubble wrap around it, and it fits pretty snug in the box. And then that's how we end up shipping them.
If you get it turned upside down, it's okay?
Yeah, it should be. I ship my husband some to Washington, D.C. He has a business up there. And I actually shipped him a pie also, just to see how it would get there. And he said it was fine. So hopefully it'll work out. Yeah.
When you're frosting your layers, how do you keep aren't there crumbs coming off the cake that get into it, or is
That's the baking part.
okay?
Yeah, it can. I mean, I know with red velvet, you know, you have cream cheese icing or white frosting. If you rake it too hard, or if the cake is baked too much, it's going to, and if it's not baked enough, it might do the same.
If it does that, what do you do about it? You just do the best you can, and
You just put the ice and let it set a little bit and go over it with some more to cover it up.
Are all yours scratch cake and frosting?
Most of them are, some of them are not. Some of them would not turn out from the scratch. So,
How do you mean that? So would not turn out. When you're using
it's according if we have fruit, you know, some of them with fruit in it. It's just according.
So just by trial and error, you found what works the best?
Exactly. Yep. I guess I could cut into that.
Sure.
If you want.
Show people what it looks like. I think we have one more question over here, too.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The paper says that layer is done when you hold it near your ear and you don't hear it sizzle.
Never heard of that one.
I think it's in the cookbook too, that Mrs.
Mrs. Kitchings.
It may very well be.
Is that what you do?
It's not a trick you've tried?
Well, actually, I had a phone call maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and the lady wanted to know how I did my cakes, and she wanted to know how I made my icing, and I said, well, ma'am, you know, I'm running a business. I can't really stand here and tell you that. She said, well, I've been trying to look for Mrs. Kitchen's phone number, and I can't find it. I said, well, she's been dead for some years now, so I don't think you're going to find it. But I never really talked to her about how she did her cakes. My husband's father is her nephew, is Frances Kitchen's nephew. That's his aunt. And I know she really could cook. I mean, that, you know, growing up, you heard of how great she was of a cook. But I never had the opportunity to be with her making a cake. I wish I could have seen how she done it. But that may have been one of her ways.
It does say that.
Well, then it was her way then. I've never done that, never heard of that. So, and I do have her cookbook. I need to read it. But
You might learn a thing or two.
yeah, I guess so, evidently. Yeah, that's a new one.
About what proportion of your sales are mailed, where you?
I just started doing it. I hadn't before because I really, I didn't have time to leave the shop and go to the post office. Right now we've got it set up where the postal guy will come by and pick them up for us on a daily basis. And that makes it much nicer, but it has really taken off.
For now, the majority of your business is
Right at,
local.
yeah, local and right at my shop. I do have people that come from all over to get them, that will drive a distance, which was shocking, but they do come down.
Is this your recipe, Vivian?
Could you get us
No, they're not mine.
Could you get us a plate?
I think she may have got them out of the kitchen cookbook.
The recipe that we put into the packet is the one from Mrs. Kitching's Smith Island cookbook. It's a pretty famous recipe that's it's on the smithisland.org website too. So if you want to give it to somebody else or tell them, they can go to the official Smith Island website and get the famous Mrs. Kitching's recipe.
I have two questions. Do you dream about cakes?
I've been asked that. I mean, probably one day we went through, I don't know, it could have been 2,000 layers. No, but when I do get home, I'm tired. I will say I'm really tired, but I have not had a dream about one yet.
And do you get to go back home much to the island?
In the summertime, I go back to visit my mom because she's still over there, and I'll stay a week with her, you know, in the summer. I do miss a lot of Smith Island. My life turned out to be so hectic. Didn't ever know I'd be in a car so much till I moved. But you know, I do like living here. I do have a lot of friends and people that come in the shop on a weekly basis. And but I also like to always go back home and see everybody. So.
Are there any other questions? Would you like to cut a big chunk and show everybody what it looks like on the inside? I got a plate for you to.
Well, we wouldn't serve this size, but I'll cut it that big.
Yeah, that's the size of chunks I was cutting for the congressman before I was told better. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. If you have other ideas that you'd love to see a program on, let us know. I'll have you fill out a nominated tradition form. And thank you, Dana. We really enjoyed this.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate everybody for coming.